after years of petitions from fans, from actors, from Zack Snyder himself, thanks to streaming services, thanks to HBO, again, thanks to the fandom, the mythical unicorn beast that it's existed in myth is now reality. Join me as we do an in-depth dive into this pretty much historic film, Snyder Cut.
You are being teleported to another world. A strange dimension where science fiction and fantasy become a reality. A multiverse where movies, television, and pop culture break the very fabric of space and time. You have entered Dimension M.
We finally have the mythical being, the creature known as the Snyder Cut, which for a while was a myth and for a while was just a thing of dreams. But now it's here and it's reality, and we've watched all 4 hours of it, and we're here to talk about it. And I'm joined here by my good friend, Luis Mendoza. Thank you for
hello.
with me. Oh, by the way, spoiler, heavy spoiler alert. So if you have not seen it or you don't want to be spoiled, leave now. So both of us did our nerd homework this weekend, and we watched BVS, and we watched the Whedon cut, or as some people call the Justice League. And I highly recommend anyone who's going to watch the Snyder Cut to at least watch the Whedon cut first. So I do want to say, I will give one more disclaimer that when I watched this movie, I was under the influence of a couple of things. So maybe that kind of put my mind in a good mood, and I was just ultra receptive to everything.
We're going to have to redo this one again because you're so drunk.
No, why? This is perfect. This is great.
Okay, I was like,
you're a great conversation.
You're freezing so much.
If I was really drunk, my shirt would be off by now. So I'm totally sober.
I'm surprised we haven't seen a nipple yet.
I know, right?
This is gonna go in the behind the scenes.
This is you can watch.
This is gonna go on our OnlyFans.
My OnlyFans, Snyder Cut. our Snyder Cut OnlyFans.
Snyder Uncut.
The Mark and Lewis cut. Mark and Lewis cut OnlyFans. Let me ask you a question. So there's actually a few questions that I do want to ask. Number one, and we won't have to answer it now. We can answer it as we move along. First question is it better or worse than the Whedon cut? Number two, did we receive it differently because we had set a low bar or a high bar, or because of all the baggage it carries and what came before it? Does it have an unfair advantage? The fact that Snyder could let loose and give you 4 hours of his vision and not be restricted by time. Number three, my real question is what now? What happens now that this has been released? So these are all things I want to discuss. This is one of those movies I think is going to go down in history, and I think film students will study this film in the future, not because it was a great feat of, film making and cinematography and blah, blah, blah. It's going to go down in history because of the way it was made and the influence that the audience had, and the influence of more than one, cook in the kitchen and the studio versus the writers versus the director versus backstage drama that was happening. This movie has a lot of baggage, a lot of baggage, as what's happening right now with, these allegations of Joss Whedon and stuff. I don't want to get too into that. And disclaimer, if I do refer to Joss Whedon or anything, I'm referring to him as an artist and his piece of work. I'm not addressing him as an asshole or a jerk. That's another issue. But the supposed history of the movie actually was Batman v Superman getting really bad reception from critics and fans alike. And then what had happened is test screenings for Snyder's Justice League were not doing well. They just did not like it. At the same time, I think there was an accident, a family issue with Snyder. I think his daughter had committed suicide, and then there was that whole thing. He had to step back. But there was a lot of drama that they're indicating that we don't know about yet that played into it. So anyway, steps Joss Whedon, who of course did Avengers, we set the president for all future comic book movies, team up movies, whatever you want to call it. They brought him on board, and he added his little Whedon touch, spice to Snyder's. So it was kind of like a Frankenstein movie. So the final Whedon cut, as you call it, was edited for time, yes, but it was also told by the studio to be like, you know what, jack up the color, jack up the comedy, jack up the banter, and it was this mishmash of a movie. Basically, that's the brief history behind it.
After watching everything and looking back at the Whedon cut, it definitely reeks of studio involvement to the T. And I think the fandom has known for a long time. I think Whedon has talked about it in every interview that the studio intersected themselves
right
in between what was already there and why he was brought in. I think there was a clear idea from the studio that they're like, oh, let's bring in Whedon to fix the mess that Snyder had.
Exactly.
Because boils down to the studio and Snyder having two complete different visions for the entire DC extended universe.
Agreed.
And I think that in itself is like the issue with the entire universe, is that instead of just allowing Snyder to run his course, they try to, make it more Deadpool, make it more this, make it more funny, make it look more like a comic book movie. Even down to suits like Suicide Squad, you can see the influence of Warner Brothers.
Oh yeah,
and they should have just backed off and let the people that really love these characters at least play with them the way they want to be played with, which I think ultimately comes down to like, okay, like the reason why, at least the MCU works is because there is consistency amongst all the films.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what was the hindrance, I think, for the DC universe, is that there's too many visions, too many, cooks in the kitchen, whatever you want to call it.
You're either going to let the artist do what he wants or get another director. If he wants to go dark, he wants to go Superman and tone down the blues and the reds, that's his vision. Don't tell him to do something and then be like, well, but do this. And again, I think this is a great experiment in allowing an artist full creative control, no time restraint, no blood rating restraint, nothing like that. No, you got to keep it under this because you got to fill this many theater seats in so many hours and you got to sell popcorn. And why the fuck did you cut so much fucking stuff out of this movie? Like, really? Like, well, let me ask
some of my best moments of the Snyder Cut, I still cannot believe that they cut it out, because it almost felt like it gave the Snyder Cut so much more heart.
Right.
Even down to the scene between Martha and Lois. Why did they put that in the movie? Like the moment where they're tackling grief, and
they had a similar one in the Whedon
it's such a relatable moment.
But if you remember in the Whedon version, they had a similar one where they were kind of talking in Lois's office.
Nowhere near.
That
was terrible.
How fucking much more dope and how much more amazing was the opening sequence with the capture the flag with Steppenwolf and the Amazons. Huge difference between Whedon cut and Snyder cut, in my opinion.
I will say that like the Whedon cut wasn't bad. It was just that they I don't want to say accidentally, because they did cut out some of the parts that like I think would have held up stronger.
There was a line, literally. It's 3 seconds long. You could have fucking kept it in there, Whedon, which is where Steppenwolf says, "I will bathe in your fear." And then Hippolyta says, show him your fear. Sisters of Themyscira, show them your fear. And then
Sisters,
they go,
show them you have no fear.
We have no fear. Like 3 seconds. That fucking line was everything in that scene. It almost defined the whole scene. That 3 seconds would have. Why did you cut that line? Why? Such a great scene. There's a lot of great scenes also where Hippolyta's kind of looking at her sisters die, and she would kind of look in their eyes and she would pick them up. And there was a lot of lesbian undertones, which I totally love, and which I felt like maybe that's why they cut him out. You know, it was kind of like someone holding their dead lover almost. That's
why I'm saying this is the gayest queers version of the DCEU that Snyder has put out.
And maybe that's why they cut him out. But I felt like, you know, as he would kill these Amazons one by one, Hippolyta had to deal with her friend getting smashed in the stomach with a hammer. Her, you know, even the scene where they had to where they were breaking the doors to hold him in, right? Where she was like, "Oh,
I love that part where they're like breaking down the pillars."
Right. So that happens in Whedon Cut, but in this one, it's much more impactful because you realize that they're trapping these people in. No one can get out. Like, this is it.
I kept thinking that the entire time. Like,
that's
a hell no.
Yeah, and
the biggest thing too is that in the Snyder Cut, the sacrifice is much bigger, and the what's the other word I'm looking for? The
stakes were higher.
The stakes are much higher because everyone dies in that cave.
Right.
Everyone dies. Like,
exactly.
There was probably like 100 Amazons.
Right. We don't see that happen in the job.
In there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Snyder would have never released this in theaters. It would have never made this cut to theaters.
No.
Right.
This would have never released. There's no way they would have put a 4.5-hour movie.
Exactly. So would the original Snyder Cut have been good if you had to cut it down? I don't think so.
Which, quite honestly, if this is the final cut that he was happy with as the final version, I guarantee you the cut that probably actually made it to the studio was probably longer.
Oh yeah, probably. Probably.
It's better because of the circumstance that we are in right now.
Right.
That we can have this 4.5-hour version on a platform and be able to enjoy it at the speed that we want.
Right.
I think if this would have come out, because we both agree it would not have come out in this same version in theaters.
Never. It wouldn't have been as good.
A shorter version, half the version would have come out, and people there would have been a lot of things that would have had to have been removed.
We would have shit all over it. We would have said Snyder made another shitty movie. Thank you for fucking up Justice League. Fuck you, Snyder. That's what would have happened.
But I think that they were still very, very, very long. The moment I have a chance to breathe too much is the moment where I'm like, it can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's good to breathe, but then sometimes it's just like,
I agree with you that Snyder is not a good editor. Like, he doesn't know how to cut things out. I can think of at least 10 scenes where I'm like, that could have been a third. Like, you cut that into a third, and it still would have been as effective as if you would have let the whole fucking 20-minute scene play out.
Yeah.
I think that's just Snyder. Snyder likes to bask in long pan shots and close-ups. And there's a scene where when Aquaman goes back in the ocean and those ladies are singing that song for him. Do you remember that scene?
Oh yeah.
And I get it. They're worshiping him as some sort of god who's saving the town, but they're literally singing for 3-4 minutes. We don't need that whole song. And then she smells his sweater, and it's just so weird.
Okay, that part was creepy. That part was creepy.
What was that? What was that?
It's not that he does not know how to edit; is that he doesn't know how to edit for a theatrical run.
No, it's not even about theatrical run. I'm still at home. I still got shit to do. I gotta go to work. I gotta go to bed.
That's what I'm saying.
To dedicate 16 hours of my life to watching Superman, but I can't.
I know, but And that's
whether
what
I'm
I'm
in a
saying.
movie
In the
theater or at
circumstance that
home.
we're in, but in the circumstance that we're in right now, the Snyder Cut is being much better received because we do have all this meticulous time on our hands that because of the pandemic and we have much more time, people have more time to devote to these type of things.
Even though I don't like studios putting restrictions on artists, sometimes it is fucking necessary. And with Snyder, it seems like it's kind of necessary. Sometimes you got to be like, hey, fucking snap out of it. We're telling a story. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm back. And there's a lot of scenes in here, a lot that trail on, like the Flash scene we talked about. That could have been, they could have done that, and they could have cut it into 1/3 of it and still gotten that message across, still had it be sentimental, still had it be cool, and still get it out of the way. It did not have to be that long. The Icelandic singing did not have to be that long. And even us as an audience, yeah, we have all the time in the world. I can pause, I can come back to it. But you're right. You said it yourself. When you have a time to breathe, it takes you out of the movie. As soon as you're like, oh, what I got to make for dinner. And Snyder gives us a lot of those moments where I'm like, oh, I got to pay my electric bill. Oh, wait, this movie's still going. There has to be a balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kept catching myself reaching for my phone, and the moment that I reach for my phone is where like, okay, like this scene did not need to be there. All those scenes between Cyborg and his dad, oh my god, they were so good.
None of that needed to be cut out.
Like so good.
Every Cyborg scene needed to have stayed in the movie.
He was the heart of this entire narrative of the film.
Should we go character by character? I feel like that would be like, easier. Should we do that?
Let's start with the the biggest elephant in the room, and that is how they completely remove Cyborg's character from the Whedon cut. And I think it boils down to runtime.
I hope it does. And the only reason I say that is because, again, with all these allegations that are coming out against Whedon, someone else had brought this up. And again, I don't want to make this political or anything like that, or I don't want to go too deep into it. But even in the Themyscira scene, someone brought up that a lot of the scenes that were cut out just happened to cut out people of color.
And yeah, no, I noticed that too. I mean, it was one of the things that definitely came to mind. Like, okay, I mean, the whole thing with Booyah and like the pounding on the fist and like, it felt like Whedon was just like trying to give us a caricature of some of these characters.
Because look, every character got shafted. Aquaman got shafted. Superman got shafted in the original cut. Every Steppenwolf got shafted. So I don't think it had that much to do with
it. I think all characters got the short end of a stick. But none more than Cyborg.
None more than Cyborg, definitely. Cyborg was supposed to get a film, and he was going to be in the next Flash film.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why they also made that choice to like probably, well, let's cut out who's super brand new, and let's only leave what's detrimental to moving the plot forward. I don't know.
But you're right. Cyborg, every scene of Cyborg here was absolutely beautiful and absolutely needed and absolutely mind-blowing. Like, there's a scene where his dad is kind of explaining his powers to him, and Cyborg's kind of like in this virtual world, and he's telling him how he can like topple financial institutions and how like no encryption, no firewall can fucking stop him. And you're like, fuck, I want a Cyborg movie right the fuck now.
Watching the Snyder Cut by a million, like,
bajillion light years.
Bajillion, makes me feel that like if we would have gotten the Snyder Cut, people would have fallen in love with Cyborg.
Oh my god!
Probably more than people would have cared about any other character.
Oh my god! Yes, dude. In the Whedon cut, it was like I think they introduced him. He was like in a room with a hoodie, and he's like, "I'm a monster." And the next thing you know, he's like, sticking his tentacles into things and like hacking them. And that was it. He was like, I'm a robot. I have robot powers. I have speed powers. I have ocean powers. Let's fight. In this one, not only do I know his motivation as a character and his pain, and his
but you can relate to it.
Huh?
You can relate to it.
I can
better.
totally relate to him. Yeah, totally. Not only, but do I see him and I like him? I like the fact that he hacked into the system to change his friend's grades. I like the fact that he hacked to get that lady some money in the ATM. His banter between his mom, his dad, just the way he talks to Batman, and he's like, I know who you are. And the way he talks to Wonder Woman, he's like, bitch, I know who you are. And
yeah,
like,
well, he's
world. And oh my God, but just him as a superhero, dude, like he can do so fucking much. He's almost one of the most important characters of the fucking Justice League. Like
I agree.
They absolutely needed him in every fucking thing.
If they would have made Cyborg the central new character, like to really drive the entire film,
narratively,
it would have performed so well, like well.
Especially as the newcomer who's meeting Batman, who's meeting Wonder Woman. He's us. He would have represented
he's us.
You were saying how in the Whedon cut there's like all these boring fucking monologues with Bruce Wayne, and in this one, Cyborg is given that role. Cyborg is given like I'm the one.
And that's why I brought that up.
Yeah, and it was even better. It worked a million times better.
It worked so much better. Mm-hmm. The plot device is there for a reason, and it actually makes sense to his character.
Oh yeah,
he is literally the embodiment of information that historically, I was also telling my friend, it's so important, historically speaking, for people of color to not have access to information. And for the first time, you have a character like Cyborg, who is not only physically powerful, but mentally has the access to knowledge and information that he did not have before. Having, to be a black man, then become a cyborg, become a metahuman, become the, feel like an outcast, and having to deal with the sins of his father too. He's the embodiment of every single character. Like if you look at Cyborg, he's gone through almost everything that every other Justice League character has gone through. Probably even worse, because he's
like deformed, essentially.
Which is also a metaphor for being a black man in America. That like whatever you do, no one will ever see anything more than being a cyborg. No one will ever be able to see you more than a black man, right? And so I think that if they would have left that in, that would have been so powerful.
If this movie does anything, I hope it reinvigorates and reignites DC's drive to make good character-driven films and to give these characters a second chance. Because as of now, the Cyborg movie has been nixed, and so has, I think the Flash movie was. It
was confirmed, right?
And now it's coming back. But Cyborg was supposed to make an appearance in it, but now he's not. So I don't know if that has to do with the WB Ray Fisher drama. But dude, give this kid a fucking movie. Do you want to talk about the Flash?
Let's talk about Flash. For the Flash to work, he serves as that. He serves as the punchline.
Right.
For Justice League. And even in the comics, I mean, he is literally.
But what's funny is all of the lines that I thought were added by Joss were not. They were added by Snyder in the original cut.
I know, they're not.
Quippy lines
that's what
were originally there.
When I look at Whedon's cut, and this is going back to like cutting the fat of what is actually needed for the plot to move forward, you're going to cut the things that don't serve the ultimate plot of the film. And unfortunately, a lot of the great scenes for Flash did not move the storyline forward at like zero. Like that huge scene that was one of my favorite scenes of this cut. But I asked myself, was it a favorite of mine because it was just a new scene? And it was. Or was it a favorite scene because it served a purpose?
So, like, for that scene you're talking about with the Flash, again, I like that scene. I don't hate it. A lot of people hated it. They thought it was very cringe. I liked it because
It was cringe, but to me, like it was the first time we see like like a, a real motivation for like one of these superheroes um while they're out and about. Like we've seen it with everybody else,
right.
and we
Yeah,
needed that for the Flash.
right,
We
right.
saw it with Superman, we saw it with Batman,
Yeah.
we even saw it with Aquaman, and we saw it like, and the only person we had left to see is the Flash. You know,
Right.
like is he really a good guy?
I think it had an importance in the fact that it established how his powers worked, which it's kind of the same as Quicksilver's powers. I get it. You can move fast, things appear slower to him, but you still need to establish what his powers were in this universe. We can't just assume you know what every speedster's powers like because you watched X-Men. You have to establish what his powers are in this universe, and that's what it was, to establish that he can do all this within a matter of seconds. Again, it went on too long, but there were some other scenes that were fucking crazy in his powers, and I was like, fucking
when he's
cool.
saving the people, that was one of my favorite scenes.
When he was like,
that was cool. That's one of the things I appreciated about the Snyder Cut, is that we were able to see the full spectrum of how they would use their powers. In the middle of a battle, right?
Right.
Oh, I never thought Flash could do that. Oh, that's a really interesting way of doing that.
Right. Okay, there is one Whedon scene in regards to the Flash that I do like that was left out of this movie. There was this scene in the Whedon cut where Flash was like, I'm way over my head. I don't know what to do. Like, what the fuck? And then Batman was like, save one. He was like, what? He's like, save one person. That's all you gotta do. Fucking save one person. And I fucking love that scene in the Whedon cut. So the Flash saves one person. He's like, you know what? I can save two. I can save three. I can save four. And it was a great way to kind of have him, become a hero. And I'm sad that this didn't make the cut, but I mean, it's a small nitpick. I think overall the Flash was way better in this movie. And the fact that he can turn back time, they showed it twice. First of all, they showed that he can heal fast, which is great because they can establish that power, that he has that ability to heal quicker than most humans can.
Yeah, also, he vibrates so fast that his cells just
exactly. Right, that was fucking
awesome. Heal so much faster.
Exactly, and then just him, the introduction of the, you know what, I can kind of manipulate time, but it has its consequences, is a great jumping point to the Flashpoint movie that they want to make. But it also just makes Flash is one of the most fucking powerful characters in DC, period. Like, he is up there with Superman. He can do so much, and they underpower him so many times in the movies because he's just so OP'd that if you actually gave the Flash the potential of his power, he would kill everyone and do everything in every movie. They have to water him down in every movie. Aquaman. So how do you feel Aquaman differs in this version than the Whedon version?
The biggest thing that Whedon cut did not really deliver on was giving us a reason to why it was important for the Justice League to unite under the circumstances. And I think because we were able to see a much bigger backstory with the mother boxes, and especially how the backstory of Atlantis, and the backstory of Atlanteans protecting the mother box, it gave me a better sense of who Aquaman was because of what the actual stakes were for him, at least.
Right. In the Whedon verse, it was like, there's an alien coming, so I need superpowered people to help me.
Right, exactly.
Right. But in the Snyderverse, there was a few key conversations that happened, which I feel like fleshed out Aquaman really well before the introduction to the Aquaman movie that was supposed to come after this movie. But there was a conversation he had with Willem Dafoe's character. Well, Willem Dafoe was like, dude, like, you keep coming back here. Like, you don't want nothing to do with Atlantis, but you keep coming back here. And then Aquaman says something like, well, I like it here because it's quiet. But it's kind of like giving more character. Like, he's in between worlds. He doesn't know where he's here, he's there. And then there's a line that him and Bruce have that wasn't in the Whedon cut, where Bruce says, you're doing these good deeds for these people and you think they're going unseen, but I can see your good deeds being done. And again, that just shows more character. Like he doesn't want anything to do with anybody. He wants to be left alone, but he really doesn't. He does want to help. He has this kind heart in him. Another thing I do like about Aquaman in this version is the role that he played in antagonizing the other characters. So like when Wonder Woman's like, oh, we should do this, Aquaman was always the voice of reason. He was like, no, this is a bad idea. Batman's like, oh, bring Superman back to life. Aquaman was the one who's like, nope, bad idea, shut it down. There was a moment where Aquaman was like questioning Cyborg. He was like, you were made of this mother box. So, and then Cyborg's like, if you got something to say, say it. And Aquaman's like, well, I'm fucking saying it. Like, Aquaman had more of a role. He was more of a, he bumped heads more and he caused more of a conversation between characters, but he also had more good moments between Wonder Woman, like we mentioned earlier. I thought he was much more fleshed out as a character. Again, not completely because they were saving that for his movie later, but again, he was done completely better than the Whedon version, in my opinion.
I will say, though, as much as I love Aquaman, in both versions, he was still my last favorite character.
Fair enough.
I don't, and you know me, like I love Jason Momoa, and I think he's fucking hot as hell. But I don't think, for me at least, his story was as compelling within the entire narrative, And the only reason why I really was even more interested was because he was finally coming to terms with the fact that his silence and him not doing something was still him ultimately making a choice, which is this question that says that, the whole thing with great power comes great responsibility. You just because you deny that power, you don't want to be involved because of whatever reason, by you not being involved and you have the capacity to do so and use your platform for good,
right?
Like that was a good moment for him.
But that was better expressed in the Snyderverse, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. It was better expressed. And I'm pretty sure that in the Whedon cut, they were like, well, he's going to get a whole movie. Wonder Woman already had her movie, so we can trim the fat for these characters. I love you, Jason Momoa, and you are so beautiful. But those contact lenses that they put into your eyes were so distracting at times, especially during that thing. Please pull it up. Pull it up.
I will. I'll pull it up.
Okay, look at his eyes. He's supposed to be looking at Diana, and I'm like, does he have a lazy eye? And so the entire time I'm like, I feel sorry for Gal Gadot because I wonder if he did have these, contacts in his eyes, and what if it's every now and then it was lopsided, right? Or it was a lazy contact, and that shit is distracting. It's distracting. It was so distracting. Steppenwolf literally looks like Lady Gaga's dogs. I told you this already.
Okay, you mean in the face?
His face is so cute.
That's what someone else said. He said he was cute.
He looks like a little.
You're not the first person.
He looks like a little bulldog with. He's adorable. He's adorable.
I thought he looked more menacing. You didn't think he looked scarier? The other one was boring.
No.
Boring.
No, I felt more intimidated when he was on screen, but at the same time, his Echo skeleton / armor felt so gay. It was
maybe that's why
gay.
I loved it, because I liked how it just kind of moved and it would like kind of form to different occasions and it would like pop up and lay down. I thought it was great.
It looked like Steppenwolf, like the Whedon cut looked like Steppenwolf during his first Burning Man, and this is like Steppenwolf at his second Burning Man. Like he came back and was like, I'm so fabulous now. Look at me.
I mean, he was still a cookie cutter villain that had this, I hate this, I want to rule the world. It's so unrelatable and so like, okay, yeah, we've heard it a million times. Yeah, you want to kill everything.
He reminded me of what's his name from Guardians. The Destroyer.
Ronan.
Yeah, Ronan.
Right, Ronan.
Which Lee Pace is amazing in that.
It's the same spiel. You know what? Because I'm trying to think of the Whedon cut, and in that cut, it's kind of the same story. Steppenwolf is looking for redemption, and he wants to reprove, himself to Darkseid. So it's kind of there, but I felt like this one, I cared more. And I think it was because there were several times, maybe like
I felt sorry for Steppenwolf by the end.
Yes, exactly. Because there was a scene when he was like, "Bitch, you owe him 50,000 fucking worlds," and his face was like, and I felt for him. I was like, "Damn, bro, you need to pay your debt off before he'll even consider listening to you." Yeah, he's kind of cookie cutter, but much, 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 much better than Whedon cut. Way better.
Yeah. But there's definitely a feeling that he really wants to redeem himself, and who doesn't love a character trying to redeem themselves in some way or form?
Right. Where the Whedon one was like about, oh, let me redeem myself because I want to take over the world, and this one was more about, I need to prove myself to a father figure in a way, and fathers just there's a lot of father son symbolism in this movie, and we'll get to that.
Just the message of like having to prove your manliness, your worth is based on what you do or what you sacrifice for someone that really probably
doesn't give a shit about you.
Doesn't give a shit, right? And I think for a lot of people, for a lot of these characters, I think they're still stuck on with what their parents would think, especially with Bruce, with Diana, her relationship with her mom, and her dad being hot ass Zeus, but that's a different question, conversation. But all these characters are so entangled with like their parents that that brings up the question of legacy, right? Like, what's more important, like your legacy, what your parents thought of you. Like I loved watching more scenes with Wonder Woman going crazy and being a badass.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, since you brought up Wonder Woman, let's talk about her next.
She felt more badass in this than her own movie, right?
Fucking thank you. Why I like this movie is because, again, I felt like everyone served their purpose, and I don't think anyone was like way more important than the other one. So Wonder Woman was able to appeal to Cyborg when she went up to him and had that conversation with him. Batman wouldn't have done that. And there was a good line where Alfred's like, "Hey, I don't think a guy that broods in a cave all day is good at recruiting people."
Oh yeah, I mean that's my favorite line in general, and
fucking amazing line. But that's why Wonder Woman is. You're right. Cyborg is the heart, but Wonder Woman is also the heart, and she is the hope, the symbol of hope when Superman isn't there. She is that glimmer of we can be better when there is no Superman, when Superman is dead.
If the UN invites Justice League, or the DCU version of Justice League, to be a guest, and they send a representative, they're not going to send anyone else except Diana. Diana is the PR spokesperson.
Agreed.
And let's be honest, we talked about this. Like, this bitch can wear heels and come into a cave.
Dude, that's funny. I thought I was the only one who noticed that. I was like, are those heels adamantium?
In the cave.
Are those vibranium heels?
In all white, nonetheless. Like,
well, I mean,
let me go to this dirty ass cage in the middle of nowhere, which is funny because when she grabs the arrow and she's like, goes there to like
Yeah.
get the arrows.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny because I'm like, first of all, how did no one notice her? She's an all white.
And she's hot.
She finds the arrow and then she's wearing heels and then she lands like with the arrow in place. And I'm like, this bitch has either really expensive taste where like it's like her white ass fashionista style.
I loved it.
It's heat resistant, like dirt
what did you want her to do?
resistant.
Like change into her sweats so she can go down and look at the engravings of Darkseid. But yeah, the whole heels thing. There's this thing about in Hollywood where women also have to wear heels all the time, whether they're running away.
No, right. And I saw it as a metaphor for that too.
Or doing superhero jumps into a cave. A woman needs to have high heels on. It's fucking ridiculous. But I love that scene though. I love when she lands.
Yeah, like it felt so powerful.
That opening scene of I don't know, were they in a bank or a museum? I don't know what that was, but
the film or
the Wonder Woman scene, the one where it was in the Whedon.
Oh yeah, it was. This one. It was the expanded part of the bank.
Oh, it was a bank. Okay, so essentially both scenes were in both cuts, but why did this one resonate way more and was way fucking cooler? I was trying to figure out what they cut out, what they didn't, and a lot of it was the same, but this one was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, she's so much fucking cooler in this. I think maybe they focused more on like the little girls in there and their hostages. They had more time for that scene to breathe. I felt like the whole scene was different.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, did you notice the music was different? So the moment that she breaks through the wall, and you see it in the Whedon cut, it starts with the Amazonian
music,
music, which is what I said before, that Snyder is so good at the motif. So the motif for the Amazonian starts first, and when she breaks the door down, and then we get the motif of Wonder Woman that starts with the and so I think the intention was so different, and the Whedon cut versus the Snyder cut in terms of the feeling you get from in the Whedon cut. It just felt like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, here she is. She's doing something cool. Next person. They could do something cool. Next person. I really think though you're letting a scene breathe. Like there was more at stake in this movie. I mean, maybe because there was blood, maybe because there was death, maybe. But like just the people going to the bank and then like. It was a build-up. It wasn't just like, oh, we're here, we're gonna take over the bank. Wonder Woman comes in. It was slower and it allowed it to breathe. But you saw the faces of the victims. They were scared. You saw them shoot certain people. You saw them set up the bombs. It was a build-up. But also her fight scenes were better. I don't know. Did they include more? I know the scene where she picks him up with the lasso and she's asking him questions. She's interrogating him. That's not in the Whedon cut.
No, it is. It is.
We're a band of terror. She's like, boring. Next. What are you gonna do? Like,
it is, but not the full conversation. It is, but not the full conversation. They cut out a few lines because I remember writing a note about it. I
love that scene.
Just like she has time to have a conversation with.
Yeah, she's like boring. Next.
Yeah.
This is so stupid, but there's a scene with her and Alfred that I fucking love, and you could have totally cut it out of the movie and we never seen it again. It wouldn't have affected anything like thematically or plot wise, but there's this like scene where they're making tea and I don't know why, but I fucking love it. Did you remember that scene?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of rolled I kind of rolled my eyes about it a little bit.
I loved it.
I rolled my eyes more like where it's like, is Alfred trying to mansplain to her to how to make tea? Like, there is no right or wrong way to make tea. It's almost like our conversation about geekdom and gatekeeping.
But that's why I think it was funny, is because
it was funny. No,
bro,
I found it funny.
Amazon. He's like, no, this is how you do the tea. But
yeah, I found it funny because it's like, bitch, do you know how old Wonder Woman is? She's probably like had so many different, much more intricate versions of tea that she's down to the point where like she doesn't care, and fucking Alfred. but that's Alfred. Alfred's just trying to be. He's trying to be
He
of
deals
help.
with Bruce all the time. So like, this is what you got to do. Wonder Woman, the scene between Wonder Woman and Aquaman, that needed to fucking stay in the movie.
Oh, the Atlantean versus like the Themyscirian.
Yeah, where they're kind of like,
Or,
we were friends.
Amazonian nods. Themyscirian. I don't think I even heard that before.
Dude, I keep saying Atlantean, like they're from Atlanta. No,
It is
Atlantean.
Atlantean.
But there was, and when he says something like, well, there's a saying in Atlantean, and she's like, wait, we have the same saying in Amazon. How about that? And I don't know, that's such a beautiful moment to me. And back to something that you said earlier, what I did not fucking like was same problem that we have with Snyder Superman and Snyder Batman is Wonder Woman fucking killed a dude. Like she straight up murked him. Like he's dead. They didn't show it. It was off screen, but she fucking went like this and his hat came off.
No, I saw that. And
no.
I know.
Unacceptable.
And I kept trying to
justify
to rationalize some of these moments, especially thinking, okay, like the problem with Snyder is that Snyder's vision of DC is DC in the real world, right?
Wonder Woman beheading Steppenwolf is a million times.
That was dark. I didn't think that was going to happen. That scene. I thought that what she was just going to do was punch him into the boom, the boom hole, black worm, whatever it's called now. And when she cut his head off, I was like, I literally was like,
I accept
because that
I'm okay
like
with that. I'm okay with
principles.
that, but I'm not okay with her killing a human being with gauntlets. Like, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, those three need to kind of stay the line, which is why people had a problem with Superman killing Zod. It was, wait a minute, this is not what Superman does. Batman doesn't have a machine gun on his Batmobile and kill a bunch of civilians, no matter how brooding and hurt he is over Robin's death. That's not what Batman is. Batman specifically doesn't kill, and Batman specifically has this thing with the Joker where the Joker's trying to get him to kill, and there's this, this back and forth thing. Well, will I kill the Joker? Should you kill the Joker? But Snyder's like, fuck it. Everyone kills everybody. And I'm like, I did not like that at all in Diana's scene. I love that fucking scene to death. But when she killed that dude, I was like, fuck you, Snyder. Like, why? Why? If you're in the superhero business, in real life, there would be casualties, right? But so Marvel, I think, handled it in a better way, where there was Sokovia, where, we tried to save a lot of people, but oops, a lot of people died. There was casualties, but they were unintended casualties. In this scene, Wonder Woman, she already saved everyone. The guy had no bullets left, and she was like, boom, finish him. I was just like, it was so out of character.
Yeah, I kept thinking, like, what would your mother think? Or like, would her mother be like,
what would this little girl think over here that's like, wants to be you? Lex Luthor. Personally, I never liked the casting of Lex Luthor since Batman v Superman. So therefore, I don't like him moving on. I don't think he redeemed himself between Batman, Superman, and Justice League. Did this movie improve him? I think he's one of the only characters where he didn't improve. He didn't get worse. He didn't improve. He just stayed the same.
In the Whedon cut, I don't know why Lois annoyed me so much. And I think because it felt like they were just throwing her in there for the sake of throwing her in there.
She's a plot device. She's a plot device.
Yeah, but then when you watch it but then when you watch it in the Snyder cut, it is so much more.
I agree. I think, like I said before, every character is a million times better in this version, including Lois. I think she's still bordering on plot device, but there was a few things that made me change my tune. And one of them was the pregnancy test. Was when she opened the drawer and there was that pregnancy test in her drawer, and it was implying that she is potentially pregnant with Superman's child. And that just puts everything into a
I
whole
thought about that, but I wasn't able to. But it didn't look. It didn't look like. I thought it was just like there because most women have an emergency pregnancy test.
Nothing is accidental in film, my friend. Nothing is accidental. They're not just going to put random coins. That was placed there very clearly because they wanted to imply that maybe perhaps she was pregnant with Superman's son. Well, according to the comics, he has a son with her, but that opens up a whole different plot line. That opens up the fact that when she dies, in fact, that and his child both die, which could lead to his turning evil.
Yeah, totally.
It also humanizes her even more that she misses the father of her child. Just that one scene added a whole new level to Lois. We need to care about Lois regardless of whether she's pregnant or not. And I don't feel like we've what's her name? Amy Adams, is that her name? The actress, Amy Adams? I think she's fucking great. She was in Arrival. She's incredible, but she's so underused. Again, she's just a plot device. She's there to make Superman become bad or calm him down. She's just there to control Superman as a plot device.
Sure.
Again, she was done better here, but she's still. Again, I hate to keep saying
the grieving though. The grieving is what made me feel for Lois because that should. I mean, yes. I feel that what the Snyder Cut does to all of our characters is that we see the humanity in all our characters.
Yes.
More so in Lois than we have in a while. Like we know that she loves Superman. We know that she's like depressed and probably grieving. But when she's talking to Martha, like that is the conversation that I think a lot of people have had with.
I love that scene. Love it. Love it. Love it.
And I think it hits even harder because of the pandemic too.
Right. No, yeah, you're fucking right. Yeah, totally. All right, next character. Let's talk about Batman for a moment. So there is a lot.
Do you see me rolling my eyes? I will say, I mean, I'm
a huge Batman fan in general, so I nitpick.
I know you're Batman. Like a much bigger Batman fan. I'm a Batman fan too.
I mean, not as big everyone as in the world is a fucking Batman fan. Like that's just it's
well, that's what I'm saying. Like everyone's a
five. Like I can show my grandma who Batman is, and she'll fucking know who Batman is. She won't know who the president is, but she'll know who fucking Batman is. Like
Batman is probably the most recognizable next to Superman, I would think.
Oh yeah. So Batman in this movie was done way, way, way different than the Whedon cut. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, he became more of a background character in this version,
right?
But at least that's how I felt.
And as a Batman fan, I didn't mind. I didn't. And here's the thing. Here's the thing why it worked in this one. And it took me a second to realize, like, why did they try to force Bruce to be a leader and try to take up more screen time in the Whedon cut? And it comes down to every bad leader's mistake, that instead of you propping up your team, you prop up yourself. And that was the big mistake in the Whedon cut, is that WB was like, Batman is our most recognizable IP. He needs to be the leader. He needs to do this. But it's also where Batman stands thematically is way different. Where in the Whedon cut, Batman's whole thing was, I killed Superman, so now I have to pay the ultimate price.
He's like trying to redeem himself too bad.
And then they were like, no, don't kill yourself, Batman. In this one, it's the opposite. As the Joker tells him in the end, he's like, you don't want to sacrifice yourself. How many multiverses do you have to ruin because you, Batman, cannot sacrifice yourself? Which is like a completely different theme than the Whedon Batman. Like totally different directions for the characters. He's a good strategist. That's like always Batman's role, right? Which he can be like, all right, Cyborg, these are your skills. This is what you need.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Flash. This is what you need to do.
He is the strategist. He's the guy who
he's not the
looks
leader.
At every outcome.
Exactly. He's not the leader. He's the smart one. He's the strategist, right? So therefore, he's always he's not the leader, but he's always kind of putting the pawns where the pawns need to go for the plan to work, right? And that's why at the end when the Joker's like, okay, well, when are you gonna fucking make a pawn out of yourself? When are you the pawn in this grand scheme of things? And it's a completely different Batman than we get in the Joss Whedon one. In the Joss Whedon one, he was like suicidal, remember? They're like, dude, you're about to fucking kill yourself. He's like, oh, I'm so brooding. I killed Clark. This is what I need to do to redeem myself. It's like almost a completely different character in both movies.
All I remember from the Whedon cut is that Bruce annoyed me so much because he was just like
his monologues.
His monologues, his inspirational stuff, and like where he was trying to redeem himself so hard that it's just like, dude, just shut up and just do something. Like you don't have to
out of character.
You don't have to like prove yourself.
It's out of character for Batman. Batman would feel guilty about it, but not show it and try to alleviate the guilt in other ways. But this Batman was just so like, oh, what have I done? What have I? Woe is me. And it was just out of character for Batman and Bruce Wayne for me. Honestly, I don't hate
I agree.
Affleck's interpretation of Batman, but this is not the best interpretation of Batman for me. A lot of people love Batfleck. He's okay. I like his Bruce Wayne. I don't necessarily love his Batman. But that's coming from a Batman fan. I like nothing's ever gonna outdo animated series Batman. I think that Batman is like the Batman in my brain, like Kevin Conroy, Bruce Timm animated Batman. Like that is Batman as he should exist in all timelines, multiverses, interpretations. So I like Batfleck's interpretation, but he's not Batman enough for me. He's watered down. I don't know. That's just me. How does Superman differ in this version in opposed to the Whedon version? I think I'm just gonna say it straight out. I'm not gonna say it to them. I think everybody was done better. I'm just gonna say that off the top. Every character I can pick was done better in the Snyder version than in the Whedon version. So I guess the question is, how much better were they done? Superman wasn't in a lot of the film. He was not. So it's hard to really say how much he was done. But number one, the mustache, I think that speaks for itself. Me not having to see a CG mustache face Henry Cavill is like 1,000 points improvement.
But I don't know if it was much better than like the Whedon cut. I mean, it served a purpose. The only good thing that Superman brought, that the narrative brought, is that it allowed us to see a much better realization of why Superman was being brought back, and the importance of why he was being brought back, and how he also was the main one who like caused a lot of this to happen, is he activated all the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and
that was the biggest thing. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe his scream is what like made all the boxes like.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was.
I love that scene.
Remember, to not forget, that scene was his fear.
Yeah.
Him screaming and his fear of death.
Amazing.
Encompassing him so much that it turned into a sonic boom that activated all the mother boxes. And what do the mother boxes feed off of? They feed off of chaos and they feed off of fear too, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think that was important, is to also acknowledge that like these heroes, you know, are always also inadvertently always like causing a lot of these things to happen.
Speaking of Superman, but also going back to like the difference between Whedon and Snyder, is the movies open up in essentially completely different ways. Where Whedon's version opens up with this hopeful child pointing his phone at Superman and asking him questions about life and how being a superhero is very. And then this movie opens up with Superman dying and screaming in pain. So number one, not only does it set a different tone for the two films just off the bat, but it makes more sense like plot wise. It explains a whole lot, but it also, I feel like it humanizes Superman. Like he's indestructible, but this moment he was not, and he was dying, he was in pain, and his pain was so great that as a superhuman, his yells of fear echoed, and people in Atlantis heard it, and people in space heard it. I love that opening. I million times better. I don't know why they reshot that shit and had to add a CG. They probably spent more money adding that CG fucking mustache than just keeping the scene in there and having it be what it was. I did, and again, just as fanboy, I love the fucking black suit, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, that was great.
So another inclusion in this film is Martian Manhunter, which
oh my god, I screamed so loud.
Yeah, you text me, you're like, I'm screaming right now. A lot of people don't like it. I loved it. I love his design. First of all, looks fucking awesome. I like the glowing his glowing costume. I love the way his cape flows. I love his prosthetics. I like it. As a nerd, if you can just give
the first thing that I thought of was like, wait, was he on the ship with, and on Superman's ship, that he uncovered?
No,
so that was, and so that's my main question.
The general that he, sorry, I should have looked this up beforehand, but the general from Man of Steel, and then he was also in Batman and Superman. He was also in Justice League. The general that he was disguised at, supposedly that was Martian Manhunter the entire time, which is cool, but also doesn't make sense plot wise, because while all this thing was happening with Superman's Zod, why did Martian Manhunter not step in and help Superman?
Well, he says it at the end. He says it at the end that like, it wasn't until Bruce brought together the Justice League that he realized that it was much needed. And it, to me, Martian Manhunter represented like the Watcher in Marvel. Like he's just been there for a long time, and he does not meddle unless he
has to. I love the scene between Lois and Martha, where they're talking about their grief and they're sharing that moment. I love it. Great character moment. But the fact that it was Martian Manhunter the whole time ruined that whole scene for me.
I know. I totally forgot about that till you mentioned that.
He was pretending to be her. So everything he said and mentioned about her mortgage and mentioned about this and about how he feels lost was fake. It was a lie. It wasn't even Martha. It was fucking Martian Manhunter the whole time. I thought that was a stupid reveal. It was better to reveal him at the end as a post-credit thing to the fans than to reveal it like, oh, like he was disguised as Martha. That was a weird narrative choice for me. I don't know.
Marvin. I keep saying Marvin
Marvin the
Martian.
You're confusing with Marvin the Martian. Also owned by WB, by the way. Also owned by WB.
Right. So perhaps maybe Martian Manhunter had some other insight that we have not been disclosed of why he portrayed Martha, why it was important for him to get Lois back into the game. I mean, I keep thinking about that. I keep thinking, okay, like, does Martian Manhunter did he get a premonition too that something has to do with Lois, or is Martian Manhunter accidentally the one who puts Lois in harm's way, which ultimately leads to the Knightmare timeline? I'm thinking about Joker and why he's even there.
So that whole scene with the Joker was not in the original Snyder Cut. This was filmed after he was given the permission to continue the film. So this is brand new footage that was reshot. We were never going to see it in the theaters. Never. This is something that is a direct result of the Snyder Cut, right? Number one, are they going to explain why the Joker doesn't have face tattoos? Why he's not the same Joker as... do they think we're just stupid? We're going to forget about all that? Is there an explanation for it? I felt that this was just a way to redeem Jared Leto and the Joker character and be like, hey, look, he's cool again. But like, what? Like, last time I saw him, he had like silver grills in his mouth. Like, he had teardrop tattoos. Like,
yeah, but to me,
what is this?
To me, the epilogue is a completely different timeline. It's not. It has nothing to do with the Suicide Squad timeline. It's a whole different other timeline. Even Batman, when he's talking about Harley Quinn, and in that timeline, Lois is dead.
Right. But so, I feel like the DCU happened, and then there was like a moment where Lois died. That's where the time stream kind of split, if you want to talk in Marvel time. But I still assume that's the same Joker from Suicide Squad that had fucking stupid tattoos and diamonds in his
teeth. I don't think so. I feel like the Joker that we saw, I mean, people can take off their grills, right?
I don't know enough about grills. I need to study grills, but I don't know.
How about you pause this right now, go on YouTube while you're drunk, and Google how do grills work?
Okay.
Because last time I checked, you can take them off.
All right. What? You know what, bitch? I know tattoos can be taken off with laser. So if I have to sit there and imagine that the Joker went to like a laser tattoo removal place, that takes me out of the narrative, and that just sounds fucking stupid. Sorry. But the whole Joker ending, like, a lot of people did not like it. They felt it was just weird. It was out of place. You were telling me earlier that you felt like it would confuse casual fans of the timeline. I'll be honest, it confused me as a super nerd. The Snyder Vision was supposed to be like 2 more Justice League films, right? So what I understand, it was a sort of like an Injustice story where, okay, they saved the day now and they fought off Darkseid now, but there was going to be a moment where fucking Lois was going to die, some shit was going to go down, and no matter what they did, Darkseid was going to come to Earth and Superman was going to fucking turn bad and kill everyone. And even though Superman was their saving grace now, or eventually Superman would become the most dangerous weapon ever. That's the direction I felt like Snyder was moving towards, which is great. I love evil Superman stories. I love the Injustice storyline. I fucking love it. The video game and the comics. That's where he was going. Whether we'll see that or not, I don't know. I hope.
Okay, I see what you're saying now. I see. So, like, if we would have gotten this Snyder Cut split up into 3 films originally, let's say, that we would have had the second film maybe have this Knightmare post-credit epilogue scene to lead us into like another film, like a Justice League 2.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
that
makes more sense. I mean, that makes more sense because then, I mean, that makes more sense if they were going to really lead us into this alternate timeline and explore that alternate timeline the same way that Days of Future Past did, right? Where like we saw the different timelines and things got fixed, or even an Endgame, where we saw things that they went back in time to fix things. Like, I mean, that's a constant trope in superhero films in general, where like, the big bad wins and then somehow someone reverses, the big bad thing from happening. I agree. I think it was probably going in that direction, and they were going to explore that the Knightmare timeline, which is what which is the vision that Bruce has.
Okay, so I have to reveal my favorite fucking character in the Snyder Cut that was not developed enough in the last movie, that this movie I fucking love, which is Alfred. Alfred was amazing. Every scene he had, every line of dialogue, him being a bitch, a sassy bitch to Batman, talking shit to Bruce Wayne, talking shit to fucking Aquaman, talking shit to Wonder Woman. Alfred was fucking amazing. I love Jeremy Irons in his fucking role. I love Alfred. I love Alfred in every interpretation.
Alfred was our Phil Coulson.
Alfred was sick.
Alfred has had, historically speaking, he gets more badass in every. At least the one good thing that DC has done to Alfred over the first time we saw Alfred in the first Batman movie ever made is that he progressively gets much more badasser than Batman.
Batman is nothing without Alfred. He's not.
Well, not only that, but like that's why I'm surprised that like the series Pennyworth didn't do that well, or like all of those. Like Alfred is the Jarvis of DC, like, and let's be honest, like this was also like the gayest film so far that DC has put out.
I saw a lot of parts that I liked and that were definitely eye candy.
Let's go through my top 10 gayest moments.
I mean, if you have a list, go for it.
Just the glow up of Steppenwolf. The glow up of Steppenwolf alone, he goes from looking like he lives in Silver Lake to moving to WeHo. Okay, like he's literally like
interesting
so shiny
perspective
and fabulous now. Like even the shot from the back, he's got like a butt lift. Like, come on,
I did not notice that.
I'm gonna send you the screenshot, and I please put it up right now.
We're gonna
look at his butt. Look at that ass.
Firm ass is gonna be right here.
Steppenwolf has been literally doing squats, probably. I don't know.
We said like there was a bunch of gay fan service. So in no particular order, let's name them. Number 1, Zeus.
It's a shirtless Henry Cavill with his full-on chest hair.
I love every fucking scene with Alfred. I think Alfred would be number 1, as he knows how to read a bitch. He knows how to fucking talk to a bitch. All the lesbian undertones of the Themyscira scene.
It was already there. I mean,
no, but it's more in the Snyder Cut. Like there was more of that. Like,
it was more.
Is she her lover? Is she not her lover? I don't know. I kind of get this like lover feeling.
Yeah, when she kind of sacrifices herself for.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So definitely the Amazons, which with a much more gender fluid role.
Right. Exactly.
Love that. Wonder Woman has been such a gay icon in general that like.
Right.
They knew what they were doing.
But you're right. She's already been a gay icon, but I think in this one, since she's a cooler character, then she's a cooler gay icon in general. Is Snyder Cut better than Whedon Cut?
For fans, this is ultimately, obviously, going to be better. Any director's cut of any film, the true core audience of that film will always say that it is the ultimate fan edition. This is what it is. That's what HBO is there for. I do believe, like you said, like, is this better because of the circumstance? Absolutely. There had never, like you said before, it set a precedent like that. Like, what would save like the DCEU is ultimately the fans, right? Going back to seeing BVS, and yeah, I was excited for like, oh my God, we're finally get the Justice League, right? But I still left with the bitterness of like not being too excited. But at the end of the Snyderverse, I was like, of the Snyder Cut, I was like, oh my God, I have not felt excited for the Justice League for a long time. And a lot of that has to do with the much bigger, growth in character development for Cyborg for
Mhm.
Flash, and allowing Superman and Batman to be in the background a little bit more. They served their purpose there,
Yeah, they definitely serve the
but
purpose, yeah.
but everyone else was a much better supporting cast in terms of bringing up the idea of the importance of why this team needs to come
It's a
together.
team, exactly. Snyder Cut, from the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I was like, I like it better. All fucking ready. It was great.
Well, because it goes back to my ultimate answer before that. Without Whedon cut, there's no way we would have gotten this cut.
I completely agree. It took so many steps to get to Snyder Cut. I agree. Snyder Cut would not be what it is without Whedon Cut, without pandemic. Snyder Cut is not just twice, 3 times, it's a billion times leaps and bounds better than the Whedon Cut. Again, you're right. There's so many circumstances that led it, and maybe it has an unfair advantage, but it's much more superior.
Yeah, it's the ultimate edition for sure.
Yes, because when we first heard about they're going to do the Snyder Cut, I thought it was going to be like, oh, extended edition of a director's cut. You're going to add a few scenes in there. Okay, fine, better. No. This is a completely different.
It's a completely different
film.
These are 2 different films.
Oh yeah.
So vastly different.
Oh, totally.
That because of the circumstances, it's bound to be the ultimate edition. It's just there's no question. And before, I was more skeptical because it was pre-pandemic. We hadn't really heard much of anything that had gone down, even behind the scenes, like you said. And I think all those things led up to us actually getting the Snyder Cut. And I agree with you. When I first heard of it, I was like, what are they going to give us 5 minutes of
exactly
of Dark Side, and that's it?
Cares.
Like,
no, but there could have been a world where this version was like, okay, it's better than the original cut, but I don't care. You know what I mean? It could have just been like, let me add a few scenes here that make the like the Batman versus Superman cut, where like there's the ultimate cut, which is there's a few more scenes in there that make it better, but ultimately it's the same movie. This is 100 times different movie, completely different movie, not even the same. And that's why I feel like Snyder wins in the end, the fans win in the end. I think we all win in the end with this movie. I also don't want to give Snyder a get out of jail free card because I'm sorry, Snyder fucked up BVS. As a Batman fan, Superman fan, that movie was a huge disappointment to me as a fanboy. And Zack Snyder does not get his absolved of that.
It's very hard to translate comic book storylines from comic book to screen because a lot of things don't transfer over because you don't have the 40 plus years of character development and time for all these characters that you are under a certain scrutiny to deliver in a very small amount of time. Whedon Cut just almost felt like, I don't know, it just felt so rushed.
Well, we don't remember it.
So rushed.
Nobody remembers.
You don't.
Cut. Everyone I know that went and watched the Whedon Cut, they're like, did I see this movie? And they're like, okay, I remember I saw it because I paid to go see it, but I don't remember anything that happened. And that's bad.
We didn't try it. And also I don't think it's his entire fault for it was his job to clean up the Snyder Cut.
Again, aside from Whedon just being an asshole in life, he was given a very hard task. He was given someone's movie that was essentially 75% complete and saying, hey, complete the other 20%, 30%.
You know what it was?
And make it good and make it in theaters and add some of your spice, but don't lose enough of his. Go. Like, that's not a fair task for a director to do. I fucking love this movie. It was long, but it went by pretty quick. I think it is one of my top DC movies now, which, granted, isn't a high bar because there's not a lot of great DC films, but It is definitely one of my top DC films now. My top 3 DC films are Shazam, Wonder Woman 1, and Justice League. My B films are like Aquaman, Birds of Prey, Man of Steel, and then you have the bottom of the barrel, which is like Wonder Woman 2, Batman v Superman, and anything else I probably don't even remember because they suck. But
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, Suicide Squad. Exactly. See, I don't even remember it. What now? Snyder himself has said, like, you know what? I'm glad I got the opportunity to do this. I'm glad I got the opportunity to finish my true vision of this film. Where do you think this leaves us in terms of the DC universe, the Snyder universe, and just comic book movies in general? Like this, again, I think this is going to be studied in film school forever because of the dynamics of how it was made. I think this is such a
I agree.
film.
I mean, this has never happened before. Streaming platform. It is the only thing probably. The main reason that we're able to consume this at home completely changes the dynamic.
Right.
It is why MCU is also heavily focused on Disney Plus. And I think this, like you said, people will look at how they were able to re-release a director's cut of a film and has literally reignited a fan base that they probably thought was dead. Honestly, I would not be surprised if they reboot the Snyderverse, but it only lives on HBO. And he's given DC Extended Universe series to be able to, like you said, soak yourself in these character-driven stories where he can really do whatever the fuck he wants, and the fandom will love it, and people will still watch it because it's HBO and because it's DC, and maybe leave like some of the what's being made with like the Batman and the new reboot in theaters, you know, and they might even cancel that. I don't know. I think at this point they need to come to a conclusion and realize that, okay, let's just let Snyder carry this vision forward. And like I said, it's being well received under the huge circumstances that we're in. I don't think that we would have had a Snyder Cut even if like a year ago. Like, I mean, it was announced over a year ago. You know what I mean?
Oh no, so it was the perfect storm. It was everything. It was fans, it was the virus, it was streaming services coming into play. It was so many elements that brought us this movie. It would have never happened under any other circumstance. Well, it was great having you. Thank you, my friend. We will discuss more nerd things.
CGI ring on here and
boom, fist bump, virtual
make
bump.
Make me into a Green Lantern and disappear like.
Right. By the way, I just want to point out how good we look in our shirts. You look great, by the way. Have you been working out? What's going on?
I have. I told you I'm doing keto.
There you go. I mean, we look amazing in our shirts, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you for joining me. I love you. Join us next time on our next review. Bye.
Take care. Thank you.